once we finished the analysis of the context, we need to start to analyze the content, which is what we are going to present, who we are going to present, the indoor environment we want to create, our user. This can be humans, animals, or plants, or any other type of living entity. But first, we need to start to examine the properties of that user. If it's for humans, then we can examine them by looking at their biological, psychological, and sociological properties, which for a true picture of the human nature, we need to consider the body, the mind, and the society. Let's start with biological properties and keep going with other two. Here, one of the important things is we need to, there can be an actual human being, the main user of our design. Imagine that we are designing a house, and there is a definite user, the owner of that house. So I can just examine that particular person and try to collect their biological, psychological, and sociological properties. But if I'm talking about a public building, like a library or a university faculty building, then it means that I can have lots of different users, maybe thousands of people, and at that time, I won't be able to examine them one by one. Even if I manage to collect that data, it will be very hard for me to interpret it and create design decisions by looking at these data. So I can say that I can look at them as a group. If I have just one user or two users, I can examine them in person. If I have lots of users, thousands of users, I can try to understand their groups. Let's say that I'm designing a faculty building in a university, then there will be certain groups, like groups of students. I may have lots of students, but I can assume that many of those students in that group are at a certain age or have certain properties. Of course, there will be some people who won't fit in these groups, but it doesn't matter. I can have another group, which are teachers. I can have another group, maybe the cleaners or the secretaries, stuff like that. So by using this grouping method, it will be easier for me to comprehend the properties of the user. Let's start with biological systems. That is the anatomy of the user, their five senses, hearing, sight, smell, touch, and taste, their age. This information is important because all my decisions in the design process will be based on these. If my user is old or they are a baby, I'm the one who decides how much the height of the riser will be. So I can, if I want to have a nice building, if I want to offer them a comfortable and safe area, then I need to analyze my user, their height, if they are tall or they are short, their weight or their size. We can say, are they big or small? Their ability of movement. This is very related to the age, in fact, because we know that in the younger age they tend to crawl, and as the people get old, they need some appliances or they can be disabled. Their senses, are they normal, or again they have a restricted sight? Are they blind? Are they deaf? Stuff like that. And Again, I need to repeat that this is not the certain list, actual list. You can find different properties. You are not restricted with only these items here. Once you finish collecting the biological properties, you can move on to psychological properties. And when we say psychology, we mean their behaviors, not what's going on in their mind, but all the things that can be observed from an outsider. Their behaviors, what kind of people are they? How do they behave? This depends on their psychological background, their education, and their beliefs, things like that. Imagine that I'm designing a house and my user wears a lot of makeup. What does this mean? They behave, they embrace a certain type of behavior about makeup. What does this mean? This means that I need to create spaces for storage because I need to make a research, first of all. If I'm not familiar with wearing makeup, then I need to collect data, make a research. How many items are there and what are their sizes so that I can create a nice storage area. Also, I need to be very careful about the lighting. Or let's say that my client, my user, they don't wear makeup, they're against it, or they need another type of behavior. They present another type of behavior, shaving, let's say. Then it changes. I don't need to create storage spaces for these items here. Let's say that my user is they have a high level of intellectual capacity. They read a lot. They are well readers. Then this may mean that they have lots of books. Then I have to create a nice library somewhere that they can store their books and reading chairs, maybe reading spaces, again with a nice lighting and a comfortable surface, a silent area maybe. But if they are environmentalists and they are against, they don't use actual books and they prefer digital books to avoid nature's destruction, then all these becomes unnecessary. I don't need to create storage spaces like that, and the lighting situation changes completely, stuff like that. And all these properties are related to the psychological aspects of my user, their beliefs, their behaviors. One more example about their bathing habits. Do they bathe? Do they spend 2 hours in a bathtub like this? Or they prefer to take quick showers? How do they feel about nudity? Are they comfortable with it? Or they need privacy for that? If my user is not comfortable with their nudity, they need privacy, then I shouldn't design a window or a bathtub like that. Instead, I can create a nice shower area, stuff like that. Their hobbies, their education background, their brain capacity, their intelligence, all these properties affect their behavior. In the last group, we have sociological properties. This means how the user is related to the other people, what kind of relations they have. What kind of groups they belong. This can be economical groups, religious groups, or their races, groups that comes from their races, things like that. Sociology is interested in the group behaviors, group relations. So that can be small groups or big groups. My user may belong to both of them, like a family that they belong, is a small group, which people in this group are more intimate. They have direct relations, and they, because they are living in a neighborhood or because they are working in an office, they belong to bigger groups, and in that bigger groups, relations are more indirect, and they are not as intimate as the small group. And because of belonging these groups, my user may accept certain behaviors, which we call norms, rules. What are the norms of that group, and what kind of a socialization process has been were there for the user, and if I understand these properties in a better way, in a deep way, then I know, as the architect, as the designer, I know what kind of spaces that I need. Let's say that my user is a very social person, and he likes to host big dinner parties and sleepovers maybe. Then it means that I need to create spaces for a big group like that. But according to their tradition, how do they dine? Do they prefer a table like this, or they prefer to sit on the floor? I need to know that, so that in future, during the design, I will be able to come up with suitable decisions, such as the floor covering material. If I don't collect a data like this, then I may end up in wrong choices, stuff like that. And religion is one of the important properties that belongs to sociological properties. Are they religious? Do they believe in a religion? Do they need to have certain ceremonies in that place? If I don't know anything about their ceremonies, then I won't be able to create spaces for that. There is a very nice movie here I want to share with you. It is a part of a Bollywood movie. It's about Ekber Shah and Juda Hatun. Ekber Shah was one of the Indian emperors who lived at around 1500s. Before his time, the Indian subcontinent was divided into different groups. We call them Indians, but actually they are very different groups. They don't speak the same language, they don't share the same customs, they don't share the same religion, and throughout the history, they used to fight a lot. They couldn't be united, and Ekber Shah was one of the emperors who managed to unite them under one state. But he managed to include certain groups by fight, and he managed to include some others by arrangements. And with one of the important kingdoms, small kingdoms, he wanted to marry the princess so that they can have a nice arrangement between two states. And Ekber Shah was a Muslim person, and the bride, she is a Hindu. When they asked the bride if she wants to marry, she accepts this marriage. She said yes. She knows the importance of the arrangement, but she had one condition. She insists on that they are not going to force her to change her religion. And she is a Hindu girl, which is strictly forbidden in Muslim religion. Because they have symbols, they have totems, and they pray to that totems. They worship to that totems. Let's see. At the first scene, we see Ekber Shah. He is portrayed by Hrithik Roshan. He is one of the important actors. Very interesting in my opinion. If I'm an architect and my user needs to a place, a space to worship in accordance with their religion, first I need to understand the rituals. I need to make a research or observations about that rituals. So I will be able to design that space accordingly. I need to create a functional space. But if my users are not religious people, or they will spend a little time in that building, which they will not need a space to worship, or there can be other buildings nearby, other religious buildings nearby that they can, for their prayers, they can go there. Then it means that I don't need to create a design a space for that.